Hi there, and welcome to the Coffee with Christine and Goose show. I'm your host, Christine DeGennaro, and I'm joined by my pet duck named Goose. Together, we're here to motivate and inspire you with uplifting daily messages. Grab a cup of tea or coffee, and let's get started with your daily dose of love and caffeination. Hello and welcome to episode number 4 in season 2 of the Coffee with Christine and Goose show. I'm your host, Christine DeGennaro, and today we're going to be talking about what my pet duck named Goose has taught me about learning to listen to my intuition. So what my duck taught me about my inner intuition has been a journey of wisdom and mastery and trust and living in the moment. So as we get started today, pull up a chair, put those earbuds in, grab a cup of coffee or tea, and get comfortable. We're going to pull our tarot card of the day so that way we know what we're going to be taking with us as we move throughout the podcast. So the card that I've pulled is the moon. It's 2 dogs and a lobster looking up at the sun and the moon. And you see the moon with the sun behind it. And the moon represents illusion. Not everything is always what it seems to be. It's not always what it appears to be. Number 18, which ends up in numerology to be number 9, which always represents masculine energy. And when it comes to masculine energy, it means action, illusion and action, and taking action, and just being aware that there's a lot happening behind the scenes in what is going on in your life. So as we learn about intuition, that actually works perfectly, because when it comes to relearning our intuition, there's a lot that's happening that we don't see from behind the scenes of our higher power. And we don't really go into religion too much in this podcast, but I do very strongly recommend some type of spiritual pathway for you, whether it's God, whether it's source energy or the universe or Allah, however you refer to your higher power. I always recommend you putting faith and building on that faithful relationship with your higher power, because that is the basis of your intuition. That is the basis of your relationship to yourself and your higher power. So what has my duck named Goose taught me about my inner intuition? So let's go ahead and we're going to dive on in. So 3 years ago, my partner and I walked into Tractor Supply and our lives completely changed. We ended up taking home these 2 adorable, fluffy yellow ducklings. And I think we took home about, I think it was 10 chickens. So we had these little fluffy baby chickens, but then we had these 2 yellow fluffy ducklings. And the ducklings changed our lives forever. I never would have thought that. But with as quickly as they grew and how much learning and adjusting and shifting we had to do on the fly, we didn't know much about ducks. He knew about chickens and I knew nothing about chickens. And so taking on these 2 ducks, which ended up being a mated pair, we called them Goose and Maverick for the characters on Top Gun. And so 3 years and 12 ducks later, we have learned so much from living with these creatures and caring for them and nurturing them. And I love letting you guys know what I've taken away from my experiences with raising these ducks. So there has been a lot to learn about living life in the moment and being able to trust your intuition. And I blame it all on Goose. So if you don't know who Goose is a male Pekin duck. He was injured in a fox attack that took his partner Maverick's life. And they were just babies at the time. They were only 4 months old. And so from that moment on, we had made the decision to make Goose a house duck. We kept him inside. It broke our hearts to lose Maverick, but to lose Goose on top of losing Maverick would have it would have been too much internal turmoil. We couldn't do that to him, especially because he does have a residual leg injury that it would make him more susceptible to getting eaten by the fox. So we decided to make Goose an indoor duck. So back in November of 2021, we decided that we were going to, well, I say we, but it was me. I made the decision that we were going to get Goose some flock mates, and we were going to raise them up and make them all one big happy family. Goose was going to take his place outside with the other ducks and rule over the ducky kingdom, and things didn't work anywhere near like we planned. So Goose is now an indoor duck still, and we have 6 outdoor ducks and we have 1 more inside. So we have a total of 8 ducks right now. So we have 6 outdoor. We have Goose in the house, and then we have his companion, Miss Luna, who is also a special needs duck. So Goose is my pet Peking duck who has taught me all about living life fully and completely and in the moment, and learning how to trust your intuition. So here are some of the things that we've learned. So number 1, just when you think you have everything figured out, someone's going to get injured, someone's going to find a way to escape, or someone's going to get stuck in a fence or eaten by a fox. This is the way. As the Mandalorian, this is the way. They will always surprise you. Just when you think you have the fence secure, where you think you have the cameras all at the right angle, just something will happen that will make you realize that, nope, you really didn't think of everything. And it keeps you on your toes with the surprises, and you're learning literally on the fly, and learning how to take care of them, and learning what is a sickness and what is not a sickness, and how to care for them when they're injured, and what injuries require what treatment. And there's a whole lot that goes into it that you never would have thought. So learning how to think and adapt and be on the fly has been absolutely imperative, and being able to get my hands on reliable source information, touching base with people who know what they're talking about, and Facebook groups have been an invaluable resource. Being able to think on the fly and trusting my instinct on who to reach out to for guidance has been paramount in me caring for these animals. Number 2, always listen to the voice in your head that says check in on them. Every single time that I have followed this urge, every single time that I have had this unavoidable impulse to check in on them, something has been wrong. Whether the water bucket has been kicked over, one of them was trapped in a fence, one of them was getting picked on, one of them was injured, one of them hurt their leg. Every single time I have had the unsurmountable impulse to check in on them, there has been something wrong. So I always listen to that impulse. So the thing is that whenever I get that impulse, I always make it a note to feel where I feel it in my body. And a lot of times I feel it in my heart area. And the one thing that I've recognized is that is spilling over, not just over in the animals, but when it's coming to how I interact with people, or when I'm on the road, when I'm driving for Amazon. There are certain things that I feel in my heart area that are unmistakably my intuition. And it's so cool to be able to discern what that quote unquote voice feels like. Some people get, they hear things in their head. They say that they've been talking to God. God told them to do this. I get a feeling in my chest that lets me know that that's my intuition. And it's so cool to be able to hone in on that, because now I can use that and understand what my intuition feels like for me, to be able to identify in other circumstances when my intuition is telling me something profound. So following an impulse like that, it feels as involuntary as a stretch or a yawn. Like you do your best to stifle a yawn, but you're not going to be able to fully and completely stop it. You're still clenching your jaw. You're still like, there's still a process in motion. And that feeling of trying to suppress it doesn't feel good. So when you are, or stretch, you know how when you wake up in the morning, your body just has to stretch. It's the same type of feeling for that impulse when it comes to checking with your intuition. So if it's just as strong as the feeling of a strong yawn or a stretch, that is a good indicator that that could be your inner guidance system. Okay. Now, the third thing, when it feels bad, you're probably wrong. When it feels okay, you're probably right. Now, that seems so completely backwards, but one of the things that I've learned over time is with Abraham Hicks, they always say, when things feel bad, you're not on the right track. So I've noticed that there was one time, this is one of my favorite stories, honestly. There was one time where I had given the ducks some watermelon, and I threw two halves of the watermelon out into their little run area, and I let them, figure out whether or not they wanted to have their heyday with it. And they didn't really eat at it. And I was like, all right, well, overnight I didn't think of it, but something was telling me to go ahead and check on the ducks. And I want to say it was probably like 2-3 o'clock in the morning. And I go and I wake up and I'm like, let me check in and make sure that the ducks are okay. And I go and I check in, and there's a dead duck on the camera. And I was absolutely in a panic. My heart dropped, my heart sunk, and I just felt so awful. The guilt, and oh my gosh, what did I do? Did I lock them up? I thought I locked them up. And I'm throwing my shoes on. I'm waking my son up. We got to go out. There's dead ducks in the pen. And I get out there, and it's the watermelon carcass. And here I am thinking, like, that whole time I had that sinking feeling that didn't feel good in my chest. It just didn't feel good. I had that ugly doubt in my belly. Oh my gosh. I was so far off track that my body was letting me know that. However, if I had listened to that intuition, I would have taken a moment to put it together that that's probably where the watermelon was. But I was so focused on what was going on in my head that I wasn't listening to what was going on in my body. And that was such a key moment for me understanding what my intuition, what my gut, and what my feelings were telling me. Now, there have been times where I will look at the camera, like just a couple nights ago, I had that strong impulse to look on the camera, and I took a peek, and one of my ducks wasn't moving. And there wasn't panic. There wasn't a bad feeling. And in my head, I knew that something was wrong, because your intuition will let you know when you're right. Another good example of this was when I was undergoing testing for breast cancer back in 2018. I went into my biopsy knowing that this was cancer. In my head, I knew it. I had found the lump. They did the ultrasound. They said it's very suspicious. And right then and there, I knew that this is what I have. What are we going to do about it? But they had to do the biopsy, and then we had to do the surgical consultation, and then but while we were waiting for the biopsy test, and I was sitting down in front of the doctor, and he goes, "Oh yes, it's cancer. Come on, let's go to my office and talk." And there wasn't that crushing feeling. There wasn't that, oh my God, my life is, okay, good. I knew it. What now? It wasn't the devastating blow that you would expect. It was a confirmation of what I already knew. My gut, my body, my heart and soul already knew what I was going up against. This was just confirmation. And it's very much along the lines of what I have learned about trusting my intuition when it comes to dealing with my animals. When it feels really bad, I'm making something go on a little bit further in my head than it needs to. When it feels okay, that means that I'm correct. And so being able to understand that and being able to identify that and understand how it feels within my own body when my inner guidance is correct has been such a profound feeling. And I highly recommend that you take a few minutes and really think back on similar instances in your life where you can apply this to. I would honestly love to hear you guys share your stories on your own intuition. And you hear stories all the time about, I didn't go through that green light, or I sped up out of the way and the guy behind me got hit by a car. Like, there are so many different instances. Someone didn't get on the plane for 9/11. You hear tons of those stories. So what is a time in your own story that your gut proved to be 150% correct? What was your story of your intuition playing out for you in your benefit? I would love to hear your stories. I would love if you guys would like to submit them on the Facebook group page. That would be awesome. I would love to hear them. But trusting your instincts and trusting your gut is something that you hone over time. We were taught from a very young age to forego what our intuition is telling us. And as I've gotten older, I've been finding nothing but value in trusting my intuition and trusting my inner guidance. And I will always encourage you to do the same. So share your stories. Make sure you drop them in the Facebook group. When you go down into the description here, you're going to see the link to the Facebook group. You can get the workbooks or the accommodating worksheets, the podcast companion worksheets. You can follow us on YouTube, Spotify, iHeartRadio. Head to our website. There's all kinds of places where we are, and we would love to have you guys in all of the places. But the most important is going to be that Facebook group. That's where you get the updates. That's where you're going to get any of the workbooks or the worksheets that correspond with the podcast. That's where you're going to learn about up and coming things and events and everything like that. So make sure you guys are following us in the Facebook group and following us everywhere that you are on social media. We're on TikTok, we're on Instagram, and we're on Facebook. So make sure you guys are following us there, taking us with you every day. So tomorrow we're going to be talking about, I don't know what we're going to be talking about yet. I haven't decided. So stay tuned for that. I may or may not let you guys know ahead of time. We're trying to get things a little bit more streamlined here, but stay tuned for some really good stuff. We are in process of up and coming and making everything all about inspiring you. This podcast is here for your motivation, your inspiration, and to remind you that you are loved and you are cherished and you are so worthy of anything that you want to do with your life. And I want to inspire you today to trust your intuition, trust your gut, trust your instinct, and share your story in the Facebook group in the link below. I will talk to you soon. We will see you tomorrow. Goose and I are heading out to enjoy the rest of our day. We hope you all do the same. Go and live today with the utmost of passion. Thanks for listening.